Welcome back to real estate lead generation companies ranked category. Okay. This category is going to be real estate lead generation companies that include a CRM. Okay. So it's going to be a website CRM combination is what I'm ranking. Okay. So which company does deliver leads to you that contains a website and has a CRM connected to it or is internally combined with it. Now, I'm going to focus first on the companies that have CRMs. They're all going to be top on the list that have CRMs included as part of the website build. Okay, so number one on that list is going to be Sierra Interactive. Okay. Sierra Interactive, which I've done a full, huge, deep dive, hour-long review on the CRM element itself, so I'm not going to talk about it all that much. Okay, I'm merely going to say I've looked at this CRM item by item. When you combine the fact that they have a very fast, well-working website, the fact that their CRM can work for both teams and agents, it's scalable to a pretty large degree. I would say that this tool would probably be good for teams of up to 50 to 100 people, maybe even more. If any of you are operating Sierra Interactive and you have even more agents than that actually using the system, I'd love to hear your comments about what you think at the large scale operation side. So Sierra Interactive is definitely number one. Actually, I have to adjust this slightly. I'm going to pause this. I will focus for 1 second on what I feel is one of Sierra Interactive's strongest elements, which is of all the major providers that are out there that include a website CRM combo, they are by far and away the friendliest with working with other CRMs. So oftentimes, as a team or an agent, you've already experienced the frustration that you have a tool that, let's say, does 80% of what you want it to do. All right. Maybe it focuses more on transactions like Brevity does, and you feel like you need that as part of your CRM. But a lot of tools don't focus on that at all. Like there's tools that just don't include that functionality at all. So oftentimes you have a website that comes with a really cool tool, but it's not doing something that you need it to do. So you end up needing CRMs communicating, transferring data from one another. It has to happen for you in order for you not to get lost in this ocean of information that you're producing with your lead generation efforts. Sierra Interactive is the friendliest company on this list that interacts with other CRMs in what's called a two-way integration. So you have to have permission from your provider to have a two-way conversation. And that means that you're transferring more data from one system to another, such as notes connected to an account or search history. Okay, these are both big things that oftentimes don't get transferred from one place to the next, which makes the information gathering and organizing process extremely frustrating for most real estate professionals. Well, of the services that you could look at, Sierra Interactive is definitely the friendliest. I'm not saying that it's going to suit all of your needs. CRMs and what they do and how they do it is by far and away the most complicated, like multi-layered thing that you can look at inside the real estate space. None of these systems, as an example, are really based on deep relationship building strategies, something where you're trying to track 100 or 200 data points on a single person, such as birthday, anniversary, dog's name, cat's name, place they graduated from, city they live in, favorite place to vacation, and I can go on and on and on. There are literally hundreds of data points that a relationship builder could collect so that he's sending well-timed postcards or she is sending well-timed information to those people, keeping you top of mind in a very natural way. That's a relationship builder strategy. It's incredibly effective. It always, as far as I can tell, will always be effective. And so, but none of these systems focus on it because it's not core to what they want you to do, which is generate more leads. Like if you are a really good relationship selling person, you probably need a base of maybe 100 initial clients, and you can literally build a self-sustaining business just off those. Anybody that's done it will tell you that is true. And there's systems out there that focus on it. And some of those systems have generated their own CRMs, like the Buffini method, and there's others. There's many others. So if you're looking at standardized real estate lead generation tools communicating with one another, CR Interactive, top on the list. Boomtown. Now, Boomtown has not kept up to date with its competitors in terms of all the cool things that it can or cannot do. It's number 2 on my list because it's still one of the best places to get complete transparency at the agent and team level on a total package. Now, interestingly enough, I've never managed to get somebody comfortable enough to allow me to autonomize their Boomtown install and let me do one of my deep dive reviews that I do. So Boomtown I have seen and I have access to, but I just don't have permission to use it as in the way that I've done on others of my reviews. Eventually I'll get it. And by the way, if anybody's watching this video and wants to do a trade of some kind, maybe some personal consultation from me, which just read my reviews. It has huge value. I would be happy to do a trade. And just so that I can do an anonymized actual dive into the platform so that people can see what I see, the pros and cons of Boomtown. Now, it's not as sophisticated. They haven't kept up with CR Interactive or Commissions Inc. in terms of automated filters, action plans. They have a solid system. That's why they're number 2. And they have certain things that they do at the team level that it depends on the kind of team that you have about whether or not you're going to be able to leverage Boomtown. Now, 90% of the people that I know that are using Boomtown are not actually leveraging it the way that it should be leveraged. The way it is best leveraged is by a team of hunters that are in there looking at like what people are doing and how often they're coming back and checking out properties and all that good stuff, and then placing well-timed calls or texts to those people. And there's no automated functionality that's sending out messages to those people at the exact right moments. Like some of these systems have gotten to the place where, based on a trigger, they send out a well-timed text automatically right when somebody has finished looking at, let's say, 10 properties as an example. I'm not saying that Boomtown doesn't have automation. It does. But it isn't quite as sophisticated as some of the other automation that's available from other systems. However, it has a huge install base. Lots of people use it. Now, an interesting thing, I'm going to circle this up by saying there's cost differentials here in these systems that contain CRMs that is ridiculous. Okay, CRMs, once again, is one of the most weird, hard to quantify things when you're trying to make a list of which is best. Because CR Interactive, for instance, will allow you 5 users for $500, which is about $100 a user. As you scale up, your per seat charge gets a little less expensive. Boomtown at the team level charges $1,500 a month still. They've got negotiation now with their pricing, so it's a little hard to peg pricing, but they still oftentimes quote $1,500 a month to teams. To individuals, they oftentimes quote $900 a month. That still means, though, that you're paying a higher price per seat on Boomtown than most other systems. And do I feel like you're really getting that much bigger of a bang for your buck based on even the website CRM combination? No, not anymore. I really don't. But you got to look at their effectiveness, their length of time inside the industry, their commitment to excellence. A lot of other factors came into play when I said, but still, I'm going to give them number 2. Because they have a great leadership team, They're only behind in a couple of areas, and they've been focusing on more traditional infrastructure builds over the last couple of years from what I know of them. So they just happen to have let the gas off the pedal a little bit in the technology space. And if I know them, they probably are developing something and are going to come out with a wave of innovations in the next couple of years. It's not like them to get behind. They probably just bit off something big, and we don't know about it yet. But I don't know that for sure. That's an educated guess. So number 3 on the list is Commissions Inc. Okay, Commissions Inc. costs about $1,000 a month to access the platform. I don't recollect how many seats that you get, but I have done one of my deep dive reviews, and I have that information on the review, so you can look at that review and get that information off my own blog with just like the click of a link or going to my CRM section, and you'll see my Commissions Inc. review, or you can just Google Commissions Inc. because I still think that we're number whatever, somewhere on the first page of Google for it. So, and I've written lots about this company. I've done a review that I published under the Ylopo brand, comparing Commissions Inc. versus Ylopo specifically. I've done lots with Commissions Inc. I know this system really well. And that's why they're number 3, is probably because of my deep, deep knowledge. I know the strengths and the weaknesses of the platform super, super well. And one of the strengths is they contain more internal filters than any other system by far. What I mean by that is that a filter is like, can you designate a lead based on not only lead source, but let's say who you want to assign it to? Like, does it get assigned to a partner, a lender partner? And do you want leads to have like their designated bucket, like they're generated off X source, and that particular source is going to go to lender partner because that lender partner is, for instance, helping you pay for that particular lead source? Again, all these topicalities when it comes to lead generation and how you're tracking them can get very complicated in the real estate space, because most of you watching this video, if you're running teams, you already know that you have a lender partner who's paying for anywhere from 20 to 60% of your lead spend. But when they spend that money, those leads, if you close deals off them, they have to go to them. But you might have many other sources of leads that you're looking at. So a lot of these systems aren't sophisticated enough. And what you'd have to do is set up a tool like, let's say, Follow Up Boss, and then dump all of your data coming in from different places, like a Sierra Interactive website that you're using for lead source, or Boomtown using for lead source. And then you'd have to designate them inside some tool that allowed you to do that, or track the source so that you knew specifically where those deals were coming from and who they got credited to. So it can get complicated, and that's why some agents, teams, brokers have 3 or 4 CRMs, not just one. And that's why that two-way integration thing, and do they talk to one another, it's real important. Now, Commissions Inc. is 50-50 on the communications with other systems. Some they do allow, some they don't allow. I think they recently upped their partnership with Ylopo. So they're probably a little more friendly than some of the people on the list, but they're not necessarily as friendly as every single company that's out there. They're also, hands down, one of the more expensive people on the list, because as far as I know, could be wrong, but they don't really flex on their price. You just come in, the price is the price. So they don't have a different price, and it gets more expensive as you have larger teams use the system. Now, one thing worth mentioning off them, which doesn't relate to their CRM, they followed in the footsteps of Ylopo, and they're using remarketing, and they're doing a big advertising push to try to say that they've improved their lead generation, which is somewhat true. They've just done something that they could have been doing the whole time. And because a competitor's doing it, they're trying to keep up. Their system hasn't changed. Like, what they're using as a back-end tool has not changed. So it's just a matter of what they're doing on the front end, just in case any of you have gotten confused and seen the same marketing stuff I've seen and are wondering if they've changed the system or if my review from a year ago is still good. The answer is yes, it is, because what I reviewed is the CRM. And there's no significant differences. And my Boomtown review, which I've done one without access to the system, is 3 years old, and it's still good. Because many of these companies, yes, they add little features, like Sierra Interactive added this whole virtual tour feature, But what I do is I just update the text version of my reviews, because you're not talking about a significant systemic change that's going to change my opinion about the platform, and thus I don't need to re-review it. I just need to say there's a couple of new features, and if those are important to you, here they are as part of my review. Number 4 on the list is Real Geeks. Okay, so Real Geeks is definitely the budget option of these choices. At $200 a month, comes in far cheaper than everybody else. You couldn't really use Real Geeks except as a small team, I don't think. I think you would quickly run across limitations in both the CRM and the services that they provide. However, that's not to say that you couldn't limp through, and for the price that they charge, you might want to look at them, because it's at $800 a month less than Commissions Inc. They're really gonna have to perform subpar, and there's going to have to be some features that you really love. So really, I consider Real Geeks to be a great option for small teams, agents. I think that people should look at it, especially if you're just dipping your toe into real estate lead generation. They have solid tools. There's nothing wrong with them. They're just not as sophisticated with all the pre-built-in filters. They don't have lead nurture quite the same way that everybody else does. A lot of what you have to do with Real Geeks is manual. So you're definitely missing out on features. It's not like you don't get anything for the increased spend with these other services. But whether or not those features are relevant to you, that's the question. I once again have a deep dive. I compared Real Geeks and Easy Agent Pro. I didn't do a sole review on Real Geeks, but I have a combination review between Easy Agent Pro and Real Geeks where I pick apart every feature on the site, comparing both of them side by side. Effectively, you get to learn both systems, CRMs, and backends. So might be my oldest review. It might be 3 or 4 years old at this point. You can still look at that review, though, and learn most of what you need to know about Real Geeks. So I suggest that you take a look at it if you have additional questions about whether or not this system may or may not be for you. Number 5 on the list is kvCORE. Okay, so kvCORE has the largest install base of all of these systems. 18,000 live accounts. Okay, 18,000 people using kvCORE. There's a whole bunch of reasons for that. They have a reasonable amount of filters. They built their system in the cloud, which means that the maintenance for them and the technology behind it is actually easier to upgrade, develop. They're basically developing one version that everybody uses in the cloud. And so they're not dealing with a whole bunch of different iterations. Now, there's pros and cons to that kind of technology, which is why they're number 5. Tends to work slower. It's a little clunkier. But does it contain most of the features that most of these other systems have? Yes. You can do a lot out of it. I've done a full review on kvCORE. And once again, I'm going to say, if you want to know the specifics, you should go to the review. I specifically call them out in comparison to some of the names on this list. And so if you're interested to know a deeper version, they come in at $500 a month. That's the starting price for kvCORE. You can put a fairly large team onto kvCORE and have an okay CRM on the back end. Now, there's also one thing that a lot of people don't talk about when it comes to CRMs and lead generation in general. There's certain markets in the US where, even now, like Louisiana, as an example, where average property price is $180,000. Okay, and how much revenue, how much GCI you can generate is relevant to what kinds of CRMs or tools that you can effectively purchase. Somebody selling 100 properties in like Louisiana is literally might only be looking at $18 million, and as a broker you might be taking 1%. Like, that might be your total revenue for that much business. So 18 million, it's $180,000, right? So you're looking at that and you're spending all your admin costs out of it, you're spending your advertising costs out of it, and you're spending your system costs out of it. you know, if you've got 30 or 40 grand that you've already committed to direct advertising, and you've got, let's say, one or two people that you have to hire to manage the process for you, and if you've hired ISAs, you can probably start to tell by the way that I'm talking very quickly that 180 is going to dip down to 40 or 50,000 is all you're going to make in those particular areas. Markets like that, I'm going to strongly recommend kvCORE. Other markets with higher GCI possibilities, you're probably going to want to look at some of these more sophisticated systems where one or two features may mean the difference between an ease of use thing. It could be you get an extra deal or two. You know, if it's 189,000, maybe that's not that big of a deal. But if your average sales price, let's say 700,000 or 800,000, and your personal piece of that is 7 or 8 grand, one or two deals a year justifies the cost of these platforms effectively, essentially. So when you're looking at these systems, please keep in mind, what market are you servicing, and how relevant is this particular system? There's tons of people that have called into me and asked me for my help, and I have literally told them just based on their location, just based on where they are, what the upside is of their own business. Like, don't look at anything other than Real Geeks or kvCORE for crying out loud. Maybe Sierra Interactive, but these higher end systems are not for them. They will end up handing off all of their money to the real estate system. Now, there's 3 honorable mentions that are on this list, which is weird, but I didn't want to do 10 or 15 companies on a list. I literally wanted to keep it to 3 to 6, but there's other companies that produce real estate websites with CRM, such as Real Estate Webmasters. Why are they not in my top 5 right now? Well, Real Estate Webmasters has been developing they've been operating off an old CRM, like let's just call it Real Estate Webmasters CRM version 1, and they've been developing a CRM version 2. The first iteration of CRM version 2 that I saw, literally got to get into and look at, was terrible. Okay? The first version would be in my top 5. Even now, it would be in my top 5. It was great. It was brilliant. Tracked information from start to finish on the site. But Real Estate Webmasters forced everybody into a required upgrade, and without having yet finished the development on system number 2, creating a lot of, with clients that I was talking to at least, creating a certain amount of bad will, essentially. So they're not on the list because I haven't seen version 2, the finished version. I've seen the starting version. I haven't seen the finished version. I have no way to know, are they going to force somebody into that iteration or not? Can somebody still access the first version? I just don't know what product they're going to provide, basically. So I have no way to evaluate them. But they should be an honorable mention. The other 2 honorable mentions are myself and Ylopo. Now, both of us use the same CRM solution, or we recommend it. And that is to drive all your leads into Follow Up Boss, which is the best single house that you can have, especially if you're going to be a team and you're going to have multiple lead sources, which is what any good consultant would tell you. Like, if you're going to talk to somebody who's an expert in real estate lead generation, they're all going to tell you need multiple sources. There's too much uncertainty, companies getting sold. You never want to have all your eggs in one basket. Now, there are years where you have to make big bets in single providers, but in years moving forward, instead of necessarily continuing to put all your eggs into one basket, you're going to want to try other things, or maybe you might, if you've been relying on, let's say, SEO, you might start with a little bit of PPC. Even if you're using the same platform to generate the leads, you want to start getting variety of leads, whether you're a single agent or you're a team. It doesn't matter. Follow Up Boss is the best single housing place for all of that information. Hands down. I've done a full review on them and have it also on my website. You should look at it if you're curious to know what I am talking about. I have years and years and years of experience, and I've spent hundreds of hours reviewing these systems, using these systems. I have heard from so many people how much time they spend trying to figure out these different systems, made worse by the fact that 90% of the time the sales functions of all of these companies do not give you access to a live version before you've purchased the system. So you're oftentimes forced into making what would end up being anywhere from a $10,000 to $50,000 commitment on the average side before you even get a chance to really use the tool and find out if it's truly a good one or bad one for you. Which is why I spend so much time reviewing these systems, do such a deep dive, am doing this particular piece of content, because honest to God, spending 20, 30 hours trying to figure out what's right is definitely better than spending a year, 20, 30 grand, only to discover that what you bought simply doesn't work for you. So better to front load that time. If for some reason you have a question, the CRM question or what's included, it's by far and away the most complex question. So if you feel like all those articles I just pointed to and those reviews, they don't answer what you need, you should, in this topic, probably reach out to me. I don't know of anybody that has more intimate knowledge of more systems than I do. And so if you wanted to understand something specific or you have a specific challenge that isn't getting addressed, which might be the case, we'd want to have a conversation about it so that I could probably answer your question, hopefully answer your question. So that's it. If you like this video, if you found something useful about this information, please, please, please give me a thumbs up. Leave me a comment on the video if you have the time and the interest to do so. It matters a lot. It helps a lot. Encourages me to do more content like that. Helps my content get seen by more people. But mostly, if you really want to know the truth, it inspires me to do more of this kind of thing. Understanding that all the time I pour into it is actually helpful to people. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. My name is Robert Newman. I am the founder of Inbound REM, and I have been your real estate lead generation guide for this moment.